Here we go, Chevra. Chavtesim and Beis. We're holding it to two dots. The outside review of last night, which was a long shtickle Gemara with really one detail, is that when the Mishnah said that the tapuach, the ash heap, was 300 kor, that is an exaggeration. And we listed many cases of exaggeration. We had the meraglim, that's Torah. We had the ground breaking open from the flutes, that's Nevi'im. And then we have Chachamim, which is our Mishnah. We as well have something called the case of the Geffen and the case of the Paroiches. And Rava holds the case of the Karban Tamid drinking from the Kaishal Zav, which Rav Yanai disagrees. And finally, those last two cases were golden grapes, as well as the size of the Paroiches, which were taught that 300 Kaihanim are necessary to remove them, which is a Guzma. So that's really a lengthy shtickle, not a very difficult shtickle, but let's move weiter. Chavtesim and Beis, the two dots, about 15 lines down. Hey Chelu, Malin, Erev Tov Rav Noach, Erev Tov Rav Nachi. Two dots. We're about to start the new Gemara. We just did an outside Chazar of yesterday, and now we go into a new Gemara. Chavtesim and Beis, 15 lines down. The two dots. Hey Chelu, Malin, Begezirin, Lesader Esamarach. They raised up the Gzirin, the wood logs, to arrange the maracha, which again are these pyres, are these wood piles on top of the mizbeach. What type of wood do you use? Kol ha'etzim kasherim. Yes, chutz, mishel zayis, umishel geffen. Says the Gemara, why? What is wrong with zayis wood? What is wrong with geffen wood? So remind me to make an alamicha. I had pretzels before. Shkoyach, thank you. Says the Gemara, honey, my taima. What is the reason that these zayis and geffen are not good? Two answers. Answer number one, Rav Papa Amar, Misham de Katri. Katri means they have knots. What are knots? Knots. Knots. Okay, all our outdoorsmen here know what knots are. Knots, you know those thingies in the wood. Rav Acha bar Yaakov Amar, you know you're not allowed to use these items. Why is not? Oh, good question. The Gemara is gonna hone in on that in one moment. Very good. At the moment, we just know because there are knots, and for the obvious, the basic reason is going to be it's obviously not going to burn so well. Now, what does that mean? Yeah, in a chanami. We'll get there in a moment. Says the Gemara, reason number two, Rav Acha bar Yaakov Amar, Mishum Yishov Eretz Yisrael. That if you start cutting down all these wonderful zayis, all these wonderful geffen trees, Eretz Yisrael is going to be lacking in trees. Now, why that's Yishuv Eretz Yisrael is a good kasha. Yishuv Eretz Yisrael means living in Eretz Yisrael. So it's obviously an extension over here that where part of Yishuv Eretz Yisrael is we want the land not only to be inhabited, but we want out of Tov Rav Shagi, Rav David, we want the land to have beautiful trees, etc. So two reasons, however, we just began, two reasons why you're not allowed to use zayis or geffen wood for the mizbeach, either because it has knots, K-N-O-T-S, which for some reason wood with knots is not going to burn so well. We'll have to see what that means. And the second reason is Misham Yishav Eretz Yisrael, some reason not having these wonderful trees diminishes inhabiting Eretz Yisrael. Meisvei, asked the Gemara, quoting a pasuk. Alo eitzim ashar leish. Says the pasuk for the wood, Alo eitzim asher alo ish, that is put on the fire. Asher al mizbeach, the pasuk includes. From here we darshan eitzim hanituchem liois ish. These are fires that turn into ish. 1 second, I just realized. I don't know why the knots. Second. Everyone grab your bearings. Grab your bearings. No, we don't have a picture. Okay, let's continue. Nachamal. Says the Gemara, Nachmal, Mesa, yeah, we're all here. We're smack in the middle of Chav Tamid Beis. The first word in the line is Yisrael. Meisvei asked the Gemara, Ala Eitzem Asher Ala Eish, which literally means on the wood that is on the fire. We darshin Eitzim Hanituchim, wood that burns, Liois Eish, to become fire. Now, what does it mean if it becomes fire? Comes coals. Wood turns into coals. That's what the pasuk means. Wood that turns into fire. Umaynihu, and what is this? Tukrei shvod. These are certain types of branches. Deloi katri, that they do not have knots. Va'ozli miktar mitoichai, and the burns from the inside, and therefore that's what's kosher for the mizbech. So says the Gemara again. Two reasons why these woods are not kosher. Number one, it has knots. Number two is because Yishav Eretz Yisrael. Asks the Gemara that according to Meisvei, Nachmal, yeah, we're all together, Al Eitzav Eshal Eish, which teaches us as the wood that turns into fire. What is that? Tukri Shvod? Deloi Katri Vazal Mikta Mitaychai. Says the Gemara, V'chikola Eitzim Ksheir L'Maracha. We're middle of a brisa. Yes, hey. Kol Eitzim Ksherim Chotz Min Zayis V'Gefen. Okay, so far we didn't see anything. Aval Be'ilu, we're middle of a brisa. Aval Be'ilu Hayr Mergilim, Erbaya Shal Teina, the branches of the Teina, the fig. Shal Egod Shal Eat Shemen. Rav Eliezer Moisef, Av Shal Mayash, that's a type of wood. V'Shal Alon, that's another type of wood. V'Shal Dekel, that's a third type of wood. V'Shal Charov, and that's a fourth type of wood. V'Shal Shekma, that's a fifth type of wood. End of brisa. Again, let's get ourselves clear. We have two shitos why you cannot use olive wood and vine wood. What are the two shitos? Either because it has knots or because you're diminishing living in Eretz Yisrael. We're now asking a kasha. We just quoted a very lengthy brisa. The brisa taught us a bunch of important details. The brisa taught us, number one, it has to be wood that turns into coals. And then we had a machlokes. The Tanna Kama said his shita, Rav Eliezer added on his shita, and Rav Papa said his shita. Okay, so what's the kasha? Now let's look together. Beshlama leman da'amar mishum de katri. If you say, why is it no good? Because it has knots. So now we have a bunch of opinions. Tanna Kama, Rav Eliezer, Rav Papa. So now we can explain what are they arguing about. Even though there are no knots on the outside of the wood, but there are knots on the inside of the wood. That's one opinion. And the other opinion holds, very good, excuse me, you cannot bring it as the wood. So, we'll explain more. Let's just get to reading in a moment. Umar Savar, Kivan Deloy Katri Migavoy, since there are no knots on the outside, Avagav de Mibroi, Katri Maisinan. Now, it's hard to understand this because we don't really know what this means, that there are knots on the inside of the wood versus knots on the outside of the wood. Last time I checked, wood is, a shtick thing, you cut through it. So it's on the inside today, it's on the outside. It's a little complicated. But what we're saying is that if it's all about the knots, so we can understand how different Tanoim and Amoraim are going to debate at what level there are knots. It's a very easy thing to have debate. Now, let's look at the contrast 1 second. We're going to go back and read it again. Let's look at the contrast. Elaman da'omar, Bishav Yishav the Eretz Yisrael. But according to the man da'omar, it says, you know why you can't bring the dekel? You know why you cannot use the gefen, the gefen of the zayis? Because Yishav Eretz Yisrael. Dekel, milesle mishom Yishav Eretz Yisrael. Dekel, lesbe mishom Yishav Eretz Yisrael. Why would you, yes, be allowed to use the dekel? End of question. So let's speak out what just happened. We have a brisa that went through different types of wood. So now if the qualification is how well the wood burns, so you can understand, there are knots, knots on the outside, knots on the inside, gewaldig. But if it's about Yishav Eretz Yisrael, then it's one detail, that I want Eretz Yisrael to have nice trees. Says the Gemara, the dekel is a gorgeous tree. How could it be that anyone would hold you're allowed to use the decal tree? That is the kasha. Now, I'm just going to point out the obvious difficulty is what is this Yishuv Eretz Yisrael? Yishuv Eretz Yisrael is to have nice trees. Why is that settling Eretz Yisrael? I mean, I don't want to be too whatever, and I know it's a beautiful thing, plant a tree in Eretz Yisrael, but like, why is that called plant a base medrash, plant a yeshiva, plant a shul, I don't know. I can't, again, Farshim here have different explanations. Is that if you don't have trees on a land, then you can't settle the area. But yeah, then you're saying who cares? There's so many of them. Yeah, it's true. It's a forest. Got down 10 trees. I don't tell Rav Yaakov. But again, whatever it means, it's a little bit difficult. Farshim here. Oh, fruit bearing. We're going to get to in a moment. Very good. I purposely didn't mention fruit bearing. We're going to get to in one moment.
Also be aesthetics versus practicality. So when you see these nuts, the wood doesn't look as nice. Versus
okay,
how well it burns.
It could be. No, I mean, whatever the knots means, you could nice this. But the point is, the knots are a qualification of the wood. So once it's a qualification of the wood, I can understand. We're 10 people in a room, and I say, let's go to Home Depot and buy wood. So there's different nuances. You're going to say that wood, and I'll say this wood. It makes sense to argue when you're talking about quality of wood. But when you're talking about Yishuv Eretz Yisrael, the Gemara cannot fathom why would the decal tree be allowed. Now, I'm aware that we haven't yet fully quantified what is the Yishuv Eretz Yisrael. You mentioned fruit tree, very good, which would make a lot of sense, right? Olives have fruits, Geffen has fruits, and decal has fruits. That's a very good point. That's what the Gemara is about to get to. But that is the kasha. That is the kasha. Again, I want to speak it out outside one more time. Kasha is that we have two opinions. Is anyone else warm in here? I wish I'm dying. Okay, as long as it's just me. Let's continue. Maybe that was a problem. I had like 6 when I walked in before anyone came. Okay, maybe like the internal body temperature and the external. And okay, let's go. Just need a little breather. Continues the Gemara as follows. We had 2 opinions why you're not allowed to use Zayis and Geffen. Either something to do with gnats, something to do with settling Eretz Yisrael. We quoted a Braisa. The Braisa, based on a pasuk, said number 1 has to be wood that turns into coals, Gavaldik. Then the Braisa had numerous opinions what type of wood. Says the Gemara. If it's all about gnats, Gavaldik. So the Braisa is having a machlokes, which knots, the interior knots, the external knots, Gavaldik. I'm not getting involved in what's what and who's who. For right now, it's not really relevant to us. But if the Shita is Yishuv Eretz Yisrael, the Gemara cannot fathom why the decal tree would be allowed to be used. Says the Gemara, yeah, where are we? Elo leman damer, 10 lines to the bottom, damer misham Yishuv Eretz Yisrael. Dekel miles misham Yishuv Eretz Yisrael. Omar lecha. So he responds. Again, we're in the middle of a lengthy kasha. So they respond back. According to your reason, Te'ina les misham Yishuv Eretz Yisrael. That also, meaning, if it's all Yishuv Eretz Yisrael, whether it's fruit trees, whether it's Gishmaka trees, but why not the Te'ina? And the Te'ina was one of the ones in the list. Elamai islecha lemimar. What are you going to answer me? Why is Te'ina yes kosher? Why is Te'ina not a problem to cut down those trees? What are you going to answer? 3 lines from the bottom. Deloy avidi peira. Oh, now we're starting to get a little details. You're saying every Te'ina gives off fruits. It's called a Te'ina tree. Very good. So says the Gemara, apparently there's 2 types of Te'ina trees. There's a non-fruit bearing Te'ina tree. But your kasha's mamish, the Gemara is about to say, dekel. It's mamish your kasha. It's not on Te'ina, it's on dekel. On a dekel tree. Nami b'dovid peri. Also, frag to Gemara. Omi kateina. Very good. Toloi avdi peira. Does such a thing exist? Again, let's just read this. Go back again. Let's read this sequence back. This give and take one more time. Amar lecha u'letaymeich. According to your reasoning, te'ena lesim sheb Yishuv Eretz Yisrael. Elamayzach lemeimar. P'teina d'lavid peri. Dekel nami d'lavid peri. Frak the Gemara. Very nice. Omi kateina d'lavdi peira. In It does exist. So what just happened before we see it gets a little bit difficult in the details. The Gemara is learning Yishuv Eretz Yisrael's one detail. Does the tree give off fruits? And the Gemara is learning if it gives off fruits, it's probably Yishuv Eretz Yisrael. Te'ena. We're about to see there's a type of te'ena tree that doesn't give off fruits. That type of te'ena tree is going to be the one that we're going to be allowed to use for the wood for the Mizbeach. And now we don't have a raya, we don't have a kasha, and everything is good. But now let's see, what's this te'ena tree? Kederechava. Dama Rechava, that's his name. Maisi, bring, te'eni. Te'eni are these fig trees. Chivarta, white ones, okay? Bring white fig trees. And what should you do with the white fig trees on the top of Lamed Amud Aleph? White figs. Weiß nicht. V'shayf, what is it? Oh, good. V'shayfilo, and rub them b'chavala, with a rope. Titzavsa, the chavala titzavsa. Yeah, I don't know what this means. I'm listening to what you guys are saying, and I have the same thing written down. I'm just thinking like one of the world's a rope made out of bark. That's what's bothering me. I'm not really sure. Yeah, of course. I knew someone was going to know what this is.
Yeah, you shred it.
Good. I'm happy I asked. Thank you. Obviously, a rope made out of bark will be delivered tomorrow. But chavod desabsa, a rope made out of bark. Disarich alei bizra. That's going to do what? It's going to cause the bizra, which are from the word zera, the seeds to fall out. Vikavri, and you're going to bury those seeds. Hecha demasig yama sirtoin. You're going to bury these seeds that came out of the white fig tree that was rubbed with the bark rope, the rope bark. The seeds you're going to plant where? You're going to plant them demasig yama sirtoin, where the river overflows. There's a lot of sediment there. And what's going to happen? Koira avda. A tree is going to grow. A tree that's koira, that's beams of wood. Peira loy avda. And you're going to grow a tree that can't give off fruit. And you know what type of tree? It's going to be a very strong one. Utlas, brichi minayu. 3 of these branches do what? Loy mechazkiluhu gamla. One camel cannot, not one camel. Here they say gamla means a bridge. A bridge won't be able to support them. It's going to be massive tree trunk branches that even the bridge cannot support. So, gishmak, white figs, bark rope, rub it down, get the seed out, plant it in the over sedimented, flowed area of the river, which has lots of vitamins, grows a gishmaka tree, but what's the nekuda? It doesn't give off fruit. So at the end of the day, we're left with 2 shitas. What wood cannot be used for the Mizbeach? Either knotty wood or wood that would diminish Eretz Yisrael, which we now are defining as what? Fruit-bearing trees. Now, I'll make mention, you're allowed to cut down fruit-bearing trees? No. Interesting halacha, you're not allowed to cut down fruit-bearing trees. This is one of the big rayas they bring from here. What's going on? Because it sounds like from here, yeah, it's something we have to think about. Maybe if we have more time, we can develop it. Sounds like here that what's the problem? Yishuv Eretz Yisrael. If not for Yishuv Eretz Yisrael, would there be a problem cutting it down? No. Why not?
Maybe not.
Oh, very good, very good. But what would that show us? That the whole Isser to cut down a fruit tree is only going to be in a vacuum, like we call it. It's Isser. Now you have a tzarech. Now, what level tzarech? Maybe someone will say, okay, Ben, you build the base of Mikdash, the fire for the base of Mikdash is the highest level tzarech. But they bring rayas from here that maybe we could tie in that any tzarech might be enough. What level tzarech? Yeah. That's going to be, who remembers land house with the tree inside? You remember that? Dov, you remember that or no?
I remember seeing it as a kid.
You remember that tree? Mom should build a shul. Built a shul around the tree. Never.
I don't remember the tree land.
It was after your times. I was a little kid when I remember this. But you might have just missed it. You remember this, right?
Like being in Brooklyn for like the same night.
Do some research. Do some research. It was like a wild thing. But there's like, whatever. Anyways, okay, Chavra, we have one more minute. Chavra, we have to Chazar. I know everyone's holding. I know I wasn't here last night. We gave Shir. I sent out a voice note. Are we holding anywhere? We could be honest. Yeah? No? Yeah? 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 Okay, good.
Speak for myself.
Good. Perfect. No. We don't have to not be holding. I just want to make sure. I don't. Okay, perfect. Givaldi. Good. So I'll tell you why I asked that. I want to. Problem is the amount of things we load onto that Shavuos. Let's just learn the last 5 lines, and then I think tomorrow night we're gonna chazer the whole parak. Tomorrow night we'll chazer. It's one blot. I know that's part of the reason why I want to do that. That's why I want to finish right now with whoever's here. The last 5 lines. I know we have to go listen to Heilige Yankalu, but I don't know how long we have to listen to him speak. I'm not stuck to Heilige Gemara weiter. Cedar, or if you want, we could bring the Gemaras there and we could sit there and learn with a lot of good food. No, Rabbi Yaakov, that's a real Kinyan Mesechtah. No. If the island's down, I'm around. You're not around Bachlal? Oh. Okay, fine. So maybe we should. Okay, I'm gonna tell guys. We'll put on the chat tomorrow if we get a few people. I'll happily do that there. Happily sit around the table, take out the Gemaras, learn for 20 minutes. Okay, let's go. Let's finish up right now before Ma'ariv. Let's go. Cedar. Anyways, we'll get better food that way. Cedar as Hamaracha Gedolah. Here we go. Let's finish off. You arrange the large maracha. My taima is what we said. If you remember, our outdoorsman Noach. You have to get a better name. It could be the outdoorsman Noach. The outdoorsman like Mark or something, or some real hick name, Jeremy or something. Whatever. But either way, there were 2 things with the log cabin. Number 1, it had a window to feed the fire. And number 2, it had spaces between the logs to feed in the wood chips. Says the Gemara, my taima. So why do you need these spaces? Ravuna v'Rav Chisda. We all know the number 1 ingredient in fire is what? Air. You don't got air, you don't got fire. So if you leave a hole, that's why, when you see all the kids making the fire and they just sit there suffocating the fire to chachamim, you're not helping. You gotta remove. It's a good musarvar. You still gotta take off a little bit, let the air in, and then it grows. So you need the wind to blow through. You can feed it with the wood chips. What's the kasha? This is the window. What's the kasha? Meisvei, the Mishnah concluded and said, Revach behen bein agzirin, there were spaces between the logs. Shayam atzitin azalita misham, that you ought to feed the fire. So why do you now need 2 areas to feed the same fire? Different spaces. Some spaces did here, some spaces there. Okay, tomorrow night, Chevra, 8 o'clock at the Bladder residence. We will be chazering B'siyata D'Shmaya, the second parak.